Hey everybody, welcome back to homerecordingmadeeasy.com and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to take a look at another plugin by Fuse Audio Labs. This is the VPRE-2C Booster Amp Preamp plugin. Very cool, very unique. This is the second or third plugin review that I've done from Fuse Audio Labs. And so far, the few that we've looked at have been really, really cool, really unique, and something that I'm glad I've been turned on to this plugin company by some of you, my followers and students. So full disclosure, as I said in the last Fuse Audio Labs video, these plugins were given to me free at no charge to me. I reached out to them to see if I can do some reviews for you guys, because some of you guys have asked me about their plugins. They were kind enough to send these to me, but my opinions are my opinions and my opinions alone. There's no agreement. They haven't paid me for this video, so it's not a sponsored video in that respect. But I always like to tell you when the plugins are given to me for free, or did I pay for them, or am I demoing them on my own, because that's important. Although I don't take any money from any companies at all for reviews, because I want to be able to tell you what I really think of them. So having said that, at the end of the video, if you stay till the end, I'm going to give you a couple of free gifts. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video. This is a simple plugin. I think you're going to like it. So here's Fuse Audio Labs VPRE-2C Booster Amp Preamp. So let me give you a little bit of information that came right off their website. So this is an all-tube transformer-based plugin on a piece of hardware from the 1950s. Okay, so this is an all-tube circuit based on the sound of the 1950s. This was primarily used as a microphone preamp, or actually a turntable preamp back in the day, the hardware version. So this was originally used on microphone preamps and turntables for people that have those big black things called records. For all you youngins out there that don't know what records are. What's unique about the sound of this thing is it really has a smooth and a dense tone, typical of the 1950s and 60s sounds. Very reminiscent of, if you want to compare it to another plug-in manufacturer that you may be more familiar with, something like the Waves Abbey Road collection, where it has that 50s and 60s warmth, dense kind of a tone. It's not a high present clarity thing. It's a more warm, thick kind of a tone. That's what this thing achieves, which is really cool. So it's pretty different. And so the user interface in and of itself is real simple. Let's see how we use this here. So first off, down here in the bottom left-hand corner of this little menu, if we click on this, you can change the size of the user interface from small to large. This is at the largest 125%, which I really like. You can also switch the quality from low to high, and when you activate your plugin, you would do that here. We have a couple of knobs, and that's really it. We have a gain knob, which will let you go to up 20 dB. Now what's unique about the gain knob here is the plugin is gain compensated. So what that means is the more signal you push into the plugin, it's going to automatically under the hood lower the output volume, so you won't hear any volume jump as you push the plugin. So there's no need to have to level match the plugin, which is really convenient and cool. So the more you push in, you're not going to hear the volume come up. All you're going to hear is the effect of what you're doing by driving more signal into the tube circuit. Make sense? Next to that, we have a tone knob. Low, flat, and high. If it's on low, it means more of the low frequencies are going to be pushed into the tube circuit. Flat means you're going to get the full, even amount of all the frequency range pushed into the tube circuit. On high means it's going to focus more on the high end. Okay, so it's pretty simple, and it changes a little bit on the way it sounds. We have a boost toggle switch on and off, which will add about 8 dB of gain to the circuit. We have a mix wet dry thing if you want to kind of do like a parallel thing or push it really hard and only dial a little bit of it in. I typically will use this on 100% wet and use it in a little more of a subtle fashion. And then we have a trim control. Although it's gain compensated, if you feel like as you change the tone that the volume creeps up a little bit, you can always use the trim knob to just back it off to fine tune it if you need to. And then we have a switch on and off and a beautiful interface that lights up the tubes really nice. And that's it. So how would you use this plugin? Well, the way I'm using it today, it's the only plugin that's on this mix here, and I put it as the first insert. And the thing about a plugin like this, or most preamp plugins in general, on a single track, it's very subtle. And depending on what system you're listening back to this video on, you may not even be able to hear the difference on a single track. But the cumulative effect across an entire mix is where, or grouping of tracks is where you'll start to hear this, where it's more audible, where it kind of sets the foundation of the tonal characteristics of the mix before you start adding EQ and compression. Okay, so let's check this out. So right now I have this on a kick, snare, toms, overheads, a percussion track, a bass track, 2 acoustic guitars, electric guitar, and a piano. And I just want you to hear, and basically all I've done here, this happens to be on the kick mic, and we'll listen to it on individual tracks. But I want to give you the accumulative effect first. It's only on 10 instances. And by the way, just so you know, from a CPU point of view, this is very CPU friendly. So if I look at my performance monitor, 10 instances only puts me at 3% on my performance monitor. So you could put probably 50 of these things in your session if you had a big session across all your tracks, and it would not be a problem. And on each one of these tracks, and I'll take you through them individually, I've just turned up the gain a little bit, played with the tone knob, and that's it. And I just want you to hear what the accumulative effect is. So I'm going to start with them off. So keep your eyes on the power buttons here. I'm going to start with them off, play a little bit of this back. Again, it's an unmixed track, so I want us to hear just the effect of this. And then I'm going to turn them on and off a couple of times here. And we'll see what kind of effect it has. Now, again, it's going to be subtle, and it's supposed to be subtle. So let's make sure you're listening to this on a good set of speakers or headphones. So here we go. Let's listen to what the cumulative effect of the VPRE-2C is. Here we go. Okay, so what I hear here is without the plugins engaged, when it's bypassed, it sounds a little bit more, a little less thick. It sounds a little bit thinner. When I enable this, to me, it sounds like not only does it tend to compress is probably the wrong word, but it is a form of compression in a way. It feels like the track compresses just a little bit more. Things are a little bit more glued together. It's subtle. It also seems like it gets a little bit more bright, a little bit more clarity. And that's because in some of these tracks, like on the piano, I have a couple of the tracks where we're on the tone high. So the EQ curve is going to change a little bit. But it is very, very subtle. I mean, make no mistake. It's not this wild difference, but it's not supposed to be. Okay, this is supposed to be these little subtleties. Remember, the difference between a great sounding mix and a good sounding mix is subtleties in the way you use some of these plugins, as we talked about in other videos. So let's listen to this just on, let's say, this piano track for a second. Let's just see what we have here. We'll just play with the controls. So if I put this to flat, you can hear how it gets distorted. That's probably not what we want. And even more distorted when we add the boost. Even more distorted because more of the low end's being pushed in. Little less distorted. So maybe this would be something I would push like this. Let it loop around again. Little bit of a bump in the mid-range, just a tiny bit, and we're not pushing it very hard here. Let's play with the tone a little bit, especially on the top end. And that's nice. So when you push it to the point where it starts to get distorted, right, and then back it off a little bit, on the high setting on this, it sounds like things get a little bit brighter sounding, gets a little bit more clean sounding to me. Not clean sounding, I mean more glued together is what it seems like. Clean's probably the wrong word. Again, very subtle. So this is kind of a plugin where you're not going to spend a lot of time laboring over it to get the perfect sound because it's supposed to be a subtle thing. Again, this is something you're going to slap across the tracks. You're going to quickly dial in some gain. You're going to pick the tone setting, flat, low, or high, and you're just going to run with it. And again, the cumulative effect thing is what's important here. Okay, that's on a piano. Let's try something like an acoustic guitar. Let's see what that does. Okay, we'll leave it on flat for now. Obviously too much. That boost. Nice. So it is obviously very program dependent depending on what you're pushing into it, right? So in this case, adding the boost didn't oversaturate it too much, but brought out a little bit more of the upper mids, which I kind of like. Not bad. Try bass. Let's see what that does. This one would be a candidate to maybe get some grit and some distortion, right? With no gain, maybe. Before. You want to get a little bit of hair to cut through a mix. So that sounds pretty good. Let's try a snare. Again, single tracks just to see what we have. Okay, so here maybe. Now, if you push it too much on something like a snare, you're going to lose some of that transient, which we don't want. Right, so you got to be careful about that. Oop, turn down the gain too much. Or maybe if you pushed it and then used the wet dry. Okay, so you could do that as well. So again, it just adds a little bit of color. It gives it a little bit more girth. Again, it's very, very subtle on a singular track. Again, the trick I think to a plugin like this is to put it on all of the tracks and to run it through like we did here. And we'll do that one more time before we finish up this video. Just keep your eye on the power buttons as I turn these on and off. Definitely more compressed. So it definitely has a little bit more of a compressed sound if we're pushing it kind of hard. So you can go as subtle or as, as crazy as you want, depending on the program material. So where I think this might be useful, again, this is what I like about this. Again, it's subtle, but what I like about it, it's different. Again, whenever I'm talking about new plugins, especially for my collection, although I bring you a lot of demos of things that I might have some redundancy in my collection from a demo perspective. But for someone that's mixing at home or mixing your own music, what's nice about plugins like this, there's not really anything else on the market that kind of does this. So again, if you're into that 50s, 60s kind of Abbey Road-ish kind of a vibe, this is a great preamp to throw at the start of all your tracks before you maybe hit a channel strip from that era or some other kind of compressors or EQs. It has that 50s, 60s vibe to it where it's not big, open, and sparkly. It's more warm, a little bit more dense sounding, and a little bit more compressed sounding. And so I think this is a really good, one of those kind of utility plugins that, again, you're not going to use on every single mix unless you're always going for that kind of a vibe and that kind of an era. Then you may use this on all your mixes. But again, because it's so CPU friendly, to throw it across all your tracks and start off with that before you do your other processing, again, the larger the session, the more of these you will have on there, the more accumulative effect it will have on your mix. So again, this is, I think, the second or third plugin we've done from Fuse Audio Labs, and they make some pretty good, solid stuff. I'm new to their company, and I'm glad I'm checking out their plugins, and I want to thank my students that have turned me on to them because they have some really cool stuff. So I encourage you to go check out their stuff at their website. You could demo their plugins, and they're affordable as well. So I want to thank you for spending some time with me and checking out the VPRE-2C by Fuse Audio Labs. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, I want to give you a couple of free gifts. So if you are new here to Home Recording Made Easy, I want to say welcome to the family. I appreciate you checking out the video. I want to give you 2 free gifts. I want you to go over to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. I want to give you a free mixing course right on the website, big orange button. Can't miss it. No strings attached, absolutely free to you. Check out this mixing course at Home Recording Made Easy. And if you take that course and you really like my style of teaching and it resonates and connects with you, and you'd like to take additional training, and I have courses on everything from EQ to compression to mixing to mastering to recording and blah, 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 blah. I want to give you an opportunity to pick up one of my paid training courses at 25% off. I want to give you a coupon code. The coupon code is YouTube25. It'll be in the description box below. You put that in at checkout and you'll get 25% off any one of the training courses on my website. So if you take the free course and you like what I have to offer you, check out one of my paid courses as well. I know you'll get a lot out of them, and they're super, super affordable. So until next week's plugin review video, I've been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com, as well as mixingmadeeasy.net. All the links will be in the description box below, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.